So is the NGAD dead? Well, let's find out.
3, 2, 1, fight off.
All right. So, Congressional Research Service posted an article or a report on January 17th that says that the Air Force Next Generation Air Dominance Fighter that was supposed to replace the F-22 has been paused, and that gives Congress and the new administration time to reevaluate their priorities and actually decide what the mission is. It's gone through a few iterations, which we're going to talk about the history as presented in this article, and then go over kind of what might happen next, because we just covered China's 6th-gen bomber / fighter on this channel in the Mover and Gonki show. And now we're kind of wondering what's going to happen with our own version of 6th-gen fighter. And they make some good points in the article, so we'll go through that. So the background, the U.S. Air Force officials paused. So it's a pause. It's not a complete, it's done. It's just a pause. According to the Air Force, the NGAD is also a family of systems. So not just the one, but a family. It's like having an iPhone. You've got your watch, you've got your earbud things, your iPad. So it's a family. You're in an ecosystem. It enables air superiority, defined as the ability to operate without threat of attack, even in highly contested environments. Contested environments would be those with surface-to-air missile threats, or even like space, cyber threats, stuff like that. Contested, degraded, denied environments is usually what we talk about. The NGAD family, or system of systems, includes the NGAD fighter program, as well as the Collaborative Combat Aircraft. Remember the CCA? We'll talk about the CCA a lot, but that's basically the loyal wingman. That is the unmanned side of things, where you got Fat Amy, and then you've got the loyal wingman drones that you send downrange to die or to blow stuff up, and then they come back, and you're kind of the quarterback. The Biden administration requested $2.75 billion with a B dollars for research and development for an Air Force NGAD platform, and $557 million for the CCA in FY 2025, which started in October of last year. Congress may now decide to accept, reject, or modify this request. So here's the Raptor. That's pretty much a program that was a missed opportunity. Basically, it talks about we were going to buy a whole bunch of them. It had stealth, super cruise, maneuverability, integrated avionics. I've had Rick Abel on the show to talk about kind of, what they were asking for, and they made a list and are like, hey, we want this, 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 and this. He's like, well, you're going to get this, 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 and this. And then they had the fly off and selected the YF-22. It's pretty badass. In 2009, however, we went from buying 750 to 187, which drove the cost per unit up, drove the overall program cost up, and basically made it not a good replacement for like the F-15, and started the issues we've had since with not having a real strong air dominance fighter. Since then, China's long-range air defense systems and electronic warfare systems have grown more sophisticated. China has also reportedly test flown a new combat aircraft, which we've covered. On September 16th, Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall said he no longer refers to China as a future threat, but they are a threat today. And the problem with the F-22 is that it has a very little payload capability of 2,000 pounds, can only go 460 miles unrefueled, and the islands in that region are very spread out. So you're going to need tanker support. You're going to have long periods of time where you're airborne, and with the high threat environment, they're talking about the KC-46 and the KC-135 may be vulnerable. So you want more range to get those guys farther out of the threat zone and able to go prosecute the attack or defend the point or whatever it is you're doing. And the F-22 is not quite up to that based on its range. So in 2014, Kendall, then Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, issued terms of reference for the Defense Science Board study that would sponsor on how to maintain air dominance in 2025 to 2035. Guess what? It is 2025 now. They said it implies sufficient force capacity and capability to reign supreme against the defined threat. They were released in 2016. The study found that air dominance of an entire battle space was not affordably achieved in an anti-access area denial environment. It means you got to have expensive toys to be able to do this. Study's executive summary said the U.S. should pursue a strategy that creates an integrated and resilient high-capacity battle management, command, control, and communications network to address asymmetries in long-range intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. This is why we have a problem. It's too academic. You need trigger pullers to write these papers. This is nonsense. You need some weapons school guys to come out with this. In 2016, an Air Force Air Superiority 2030 flight plan argued for the need for a family of integrated and network standoff, launch from a distance, or stand-in, launched up close, penetrating counter-air capabilities, which would be a trade-off between payload, range, survivability, lethality, affordability, and supportability. You can't do everything. You can't do everything. You have to pick. So in 2019, they completed the analysis, created a program executive office for advanced aircraft. They created another program. So you see how much bureaucracy we have? This is why we can't get anything done fast. Will Roper, then Air Force Assistant Secretary for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, that's too many words to have in your title, envisioned a digital century series of producing small batches of easily upgradable aircraft with shorter service lives than typical fighters. Yes, that's what we used to do when they talk about century series fighters. The F-16 and F-15 and other aircraft were not meant to be 30, 40-year fighters. They were meant to address a threat at the time, and then we would develop new aircraft and build new aircraft later on. We have gotten into this do loop, if you will, where we say we want one aircraft that's cheap, can do everything, can do all the missions, and for all the services, and we're going to keep it forever. And what we end up with, the most expensive product with bloat, nonsense, and an inability to get it to market fast enough because it takes forever, because we've got to test this, we've got to test that, we've got to integrate that. We've gone over budget here, we've gone over budget there. And the next thing you know, we're in the same situation. We can't get it done. We used to be able to get a fighter out in months, a couple years, now decades. We'll never see it because we can't. By the time it gets to where it needs to be, it's already been overcome by events. The threat has already changed, and now we've got something that was for yesterday's war. Air Force sought to mature a variety of NGAD-related technologies, including the CCA, advanced materials and sensors. Air Force also has been researching advanced propulsion with the next-gen adaptive propulsion effort, which was the XA-102 variable cycle engine by Pratt & Whitney. By 2023, it appeared that Boeing, Lockheed, and Northrop Grumman had all developed NGAD demonstrators, but then Northrop backed out and said, hey, we're just going to help you out. We're not going to be a part of this. So here's the status, and here's where we are. Surprise, surprise. From 2022 to 2024, we approved $5.1 billion. And the 2025 budget request states that the NGAD attributes are for enhanced survivability, lethality, persistence, interoperability across a range of military operations, and crewed, uncrewed teaming. We just keep rebranding ourselves. And in 2025, they asked for $2.75 billion for a platform, projected to make it a 5.72 in 2029. And then during the summer of 2024, Air Force officials said they wanted to pause the program, citing cost concerns. Imagine that. We were already talking $5 billion. And then they have doubts that they could even do it because they've got the B-21, which is actually on time and on schedule somehow. And then the Minuteman III ICBM replacement, the Sentinel. It could be a $300 million a piece airframe for the NGAD. So they're like, this might be too expensive. Meanwhile, F-22 still has no replacement, and it's now a 20-year-old airframe. In September 2024, the Air Force Vice Chief of Staff reportedly said publicly the NGAD requirements are shaped by the way the Air Force asks itself what it will need. It doesn't ask, what's a 6th-gen fighter look like? Instead, it asks, How do you get air superiority in a contested environment? So that's not necessarily the same question, but they're disaggregating. So some subsystems would go to the CCA, some to the NGAD, and then they still say it needs to be a manned fighter. Legislative activity, yeah, you can see there. Senate Appropriations Committee recommended $557 million to the CCA program, and then they expressed concerns that the Air Force has not provided enough money in its future years defense program for fighter aircraft. Additionally, we expressed concerns for the NGAD CCA being requested at the same time, limiting visibility into cost performance of each program. So some potential considerations, according to this article. Well, since it's been paused, they may assess whether or not the $2.75 billion in the president's 2025 budget aligns with the Air Force's needs. So decide if we actually want this thing. Some former defense officials have argued the Air Force should return to the Century series, which I talked about, lower cost, shorter lived. And still others contend that the era of manned aircraft has ended. Remember that from the movie? No. And they're going to allow the Trump administration to figure it out. It might require other aerial platforms, revised NGAD, and they still need to retire a bunch of aircraft. They don't know what's going on. So we say this every time we talk about any kind of contracting stuff. It's a tale as old as time. For whatever reason, whether it's a T-7, whether it's the MH-139, whether it's F-35, we have lost our ability to efficiently design, build, test, fly off, select, and produce anything, not just fighters, but anything that the defense industry gets its hands on somehow becomes a decades-long event. I mean, think about that. F-22, 2005. It's 2025. 20 years, and we don't have any kind of replacement that's ready to go, and we're talking about retiring it. We're building the EX, which is awesome, but it's based off of an old airframe. Now, it's got some cool tech, but the EX and the F-16 Block 70 are kind of the argument towards let's do smaller stuff that's available now that accomplishes the mission and worry about tech versus clean sheet designs, because we have proven we can't do clean sheet designs quickly. I mean, whether that's because we just don't know how anymore, or that's because it's not lucrative, there's no money to be made, I don't know. But my opinion only, we need to be thinking about the next thing. We need the 6th gen. China has already shown that they are developing new fighters, new bombers, new everything. And if we are going to continue being near peer or peer with them, we need to keep pace, and we need to be able to clean sheet design something efficiently and affordably. You know, it's like Gonki has talked about. We can't afford the Air Force that we want. And part of that is because we spend so much money on stuff like this. You know, the old days, it was, here's your requirements. Let's have the fly off. We'll select the right one and we'll put that in our contract. Now it's very convoluted, and we end up with situations like this where we're spending money time after time after time, and we've got nothing to show for it. So I'm no expert. I mean, I'm just a dumb fighter pilot, so I'm sure there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that I just don't understand. But to me, I would like to see a world where we could quickly and efficiently build something that is useful and get us to the next level, and then upgrade it, you know, continuing to upgrade. Because from the time I flew the F-16 to the time I stopped flying the F-16, a lot changed. And since I've flown the F-16, a lot's changed. Aircraft are constantly getting upgraded, constantly getting new toys, getting new software, all that stuff. So it's something we already do. But now, as it goes on, what ends up happening is the airframe life, you know, that's really something you can fix to some degree. You can extend, but it's much better if you're able to buy new stuff that's right off the quote unquote showroom floor versus trying to extend service life. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time.